Today, we're going to talk about the ego. And in my experience, before I really dove into what the ego is, I heard about the ego from a lot of different sources and didn't really realize what that meant or how I could benefit from understanding it. So in this video, we're going to break down what the ego is and why it's really essential to understand what part of you is ego, what part of you isn't, so you can grow and master your mind and life. Welcome to my channel where I offer you different insights, tools, and teachings to live your best life. I am Casey Lepper, a licensed psychotherapist, spiritual guide, healer, and coach. These are all topics that I work with different individuals, couples, and families on to help them grow and evolve mind, body, and soul. And I'm sharing them as a resource to you so it helps you grow in any way that you need. Today, we are talking about the ego, what it is, and how to turn the volume down on it so you can turn the volume up on who you really are. So doing this work is such a game changer because it allows you to uncover the truer, more authentic self. Understanding and discerning the difference between our ego and our higher self is a major key in the journey of self-development, self-mastery, and self-actualization. Our ego, and I'm going to specify our negative ego, has a role of creating problems and imposing limitations on ourselves. It impacts our relationship to ourselves and to others, and it greatly influences how we see and approach life. Our negative ego is like a really bad roommate. It blames, it criticizes, it attacks, it creates illusions, it's dramatic, and it tells us all these reasons why we shouldn't grow. And it imposes all types of limitations on why we should stay comfortable. It is basically the reason for all of the issues in our life. It makes us feel bad. It creates negative emotional states and negative thoughts. So that's a pretty bad roommate, right? And all of us live with that chatter and that voice in our head. A lot of us are moving through our day thinking that's us. So imagine if you really think about that as being a roommate, what would you do? How often would you want to be in your house? Would you want to hole up in a different room and not explore the rest of the house? That's exactly what ends up happening. When that voice is so loud, we stop progressing. We stop doing the work that we need to evolve and expand through the physical body, the mental body, and our spirit and soul. So if you can't move out of your house, what do you do with this roommate? You contain the roommate in a small closet as far away as possible from you. And this is essentially what we're doing with spiritual work. We're turning down the volume on the negative ego while also expanding our awareness of our true self. When that roommate is allowed to take over the whole house, most likely we're going to be solely focused on it. We're not going to allow the true authentic self to come forth. When you start to contain the ego, you can see the house in a clearer way. Real quick, if you're enjoying this video, please subscribe. I really want to be able to share more of these topics to help whoever needs it. And the more people that see it, the more people I can help. So back to it. How do we contain or turn the volume down on our ego? So first, we have to be aware of the voice it takes. So think about your own inner ego. What that roommate sounds like. What do they look like? I like to think about my negative ego like a character in a movie. So if you think about it like that, what would their description be? Pause, take some time and think about this. Really feel through it. What would they look like? What would they sound like? By the way, our negative ego is actually personified in many movies. Basically, any movie where there's a protagonist who's on a journey of becoming the hero of their own story or the hero's journey. There's always an inevitable villain which represents all of the limitations of the main character. So in Wizard of Oz, Dorothy's negative ego is the evil witch of the West. The Lion King, Simba's is Scar. And in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker's is Darth Vader. All of these aspects of the negative self create obstacles for the main character to overcome so they can evolve and become the highest version of themselves. So to integrate this, I want you to write out a description, draw a picture, and understand what themes the negative ego likes to work with. For example, mine as of now has two main tricks to limit me. It usually creates a story about needing to do something perfect for it to be good enough or to put any energy towards something. And it says I need to have complete control to feel safe. Now, the ways it can use these to either stop, confuse, distract, and limit me are essentially endless. But with this awareness, I'm so much more prepared to understand how to stop it. This awareness, this self-reflection can lead you to have more compassion and knowledge. You're no longer reacting to the default voice, to that inner roommate. You are starting to build a new neural pathway and behavior, a habit that allows you to lean into another pattern. And to learn who we really are, we have to understand who we are not. We are not this endless chatter. We are the consciousness hearing it. To quickly summarize, the ego is a subtle yet potent force that resides within each of us, shaping our thoughts, emotions, and as a result, our actions. It's like an invisible puppeteer that influences decisions and reactions without us even realizing it. To truly grasp the significance of the ego, it's essential first to recognize that voice, the voice that it assumes within our own minds. This voice is often characterized by self-centeredness, fear, and a constant need for validation. It's that voice that tells us we are not good enough, that we need to wait to live our dream, that we always have to prove ourselves to others, and that we must protect our fragile self-image at all costs. Beyond the ego's chatter, there exists another part of ourself, a deeper, more authentic self. This core essence is what embodies our true potential, creativity, and our enduring capacity for love and compassion. And this is what all spiritual practice goes towards. It tries to expand our connection and our sense to that essence while eliminating that voice that we are not. When our life is dominated by the ego, we tend to have a lot of fear and a lot of problems. And if you want to self-actualize and master life, you need to peel away the layers of the negative ego's beliefs and behaviors. And sometimes this can feel like we're letting go of certain aspects of ourselves. We have to sacrifice some of those layers. But on the other end of it, we're going to feel so much freer. We can move through our day with more courage, with more joy, with more freedom. In my opinion and experience, so much of my personal growth has come from understanding more of my negative ego. When I've been able to understand the narrative and the tricks that it uses and start to change its dominance over my life and my decisions and get into a connection and a greater flow with my higher self, everything in my life started to change. How I handled relationships, how I handled out of control situations, how I started to create abundance and more joy and more peace. So this work is really, really valuable. And it's really, really beneficial to first be aware that you are not the voice of your negative ego. Start to understand and be mindful of what that voice sounds like and create a picture of what they look like. And then understand that's not you. In the next video, I'll talk about higher self, where you're connecting to that core piece of who you really are. This practice will ultimately help you disentangle yourself from the ego and gain clarity about your true desire, values, aspirations, and self. Understanding and discerning the ego's influence in our lives is an essential step towards achieving inner peace and profound joy.